that broadcast is live.
All right.
And there's TikTok going now.
Very good. All right, welcome everyone. For those of you tuning in here on YouTube, if you could give us a thumbs up letting us know that our audio and video is working, that would be excellent. For those of you tuning in through TikTok, if someone there could also give us a thumbs up, letting us know that our audio and video is working. We want to make sure that we have everybody on the same page before we go ahead and get started. Okay. Also want to see if I need to turn up my volume here on TikTok. So if it is too quiet, you guys let me know. Okay, Alex, Amy, Shauna, good to see you guys. Thank you. We got a thumbs up here on YouTube that everything's working. We got a thumbs up from TikTok as well. Okay, very good. All right. So we're going to give this a second for a few people to tune in before we get started with today's Sunday service. I do want to encourage you guys to start posting your prayer requests, healing requests in the feed. Okay, Pastor Paul will be taking those and making a list later on in today's service. We will be focusing in on those prayers and healing requests. Okay, so feel free at any point to go ahead and post them. So looks like we have a few people tuned in here. I am going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. I'm Pastor Ivy Rivera, psychic medium. This is Roots Revival InterFaith. I am here with my fellow reverends. We have numerologist Danny Johnson. How are you, Danny?
I'm doing great. How are you? I'm happy to be here.
Good. Me too. We have Reverend Christina Del Rey, our astrologer. How are you, Christina?
Great.
Okay. And we have Reverend Paul Casey, Healing Arts. How are you, Paul?
Great, thank you.
All right. Very good. So today we are in part 3 of our series on shadow work. If you missed the previous 2 parts to this, where we broke down different red flags that you may be getting in your life about needing to do shadow work, how to do shadow work, the history of shadow work, how to be really effective in doing so, and how to get past some resistance that you may have in regards to it. You could check out our previous 2 weeks. Now, you can go anywhere that there is a podcast, but you could also go onto my YouTube channel at Ask Ivy and just look up in the playlist and it'll say Roots Revival Interfaith. Okay, so click on the church and all of our previous services are also listed there. So before we get into today's service, I do want to encourage everyone to feel free, again, to post your prayer requests, your healing requests. We'll be getting to those later. I also encourage everyone attending to post your questions and comments on whatever sermon it is that we're focused on that week. So go ahead and type those in as we go. Paul will be taking those questions and comments for discussion as he sees fit. And then if they don't really fit in with what we're talking about, we try to save it till the end. And we do try to get to everyone. We do also appreciate your donations. So feel free to hit that donation button. Okay, I want to open with a quick prayer. So if you guys want to relax, close your eyes, take a deep breath. Let's just all be here. Holy Spirit, we thank you for being with us today and always. We thank you for always guiding us, supporting us, redirecting us, giving us the strength that we need to help us through our journeys here on earth, to do what we came here to do, to heal, to prosper, and to help others. We ask that everyone receive this message today with an open heart and open mind, and that those that are lost find their way to us. Amen. All right, so today we are talking about shadow work, part 3. Now, in the 2 previous weeks, I did break down the different reasons I have found most people are resisting shadow work, or more particularly, how they're resisting shadow work, what they need to do. So you can go back to week 1 to hear in detail on that. But the general list that I covered was, first of all, we don't observe patterns in our lives. We hate being tested. Tests from the universe are something we try to avoid. We disregard shadow work's significance because there's no immediate payoff. In our society, we want instant gratification, and that doesn't always happen with shadow work. Okay, we have a tendency to be lazy, and we have moral licensing, where we say, well, I've done enough. I've done some good things. I've given to charity. I do this in my life, so I don't need to do shadow work. Okay, number 5, we have cultural enabling. That means that we're surrounded by other people who also don't want to do shadow work, and so it allows you to sort of get away with it. And number 6, afraid or fear of wasting time and feeling as though it's going to ruin you somehow, slow you down, injure you in some way. Okay, so we have a great fear about sort of looking in the eye of the dragon, right? Kissing the snake, looking at our shadow, facing and confronting what's there lurking. And we really don't know how we're going to come out of it, so we just avoid it altogether. All right, so, and we talked about, I want to say, 8 different ways that you may be receiving red flags, triggers, warning signs in your life that it is time, indicators that it's time to focus on some shadow work. So today, before we open this up to my fellow reverends here, I'm going to talk about a few key things that I see with people as really being the biggest indicators that it's time to look at the shadow, right? And I would say the biggest one is drug and alcohol abuse. A lot of people, especially with the legalization of marijuana, which is great. That's awesome. You know, perks to many of the changes that are being made, and some pitfalls to some of those changes as well. One of them being that people who use any kind of drug, I don't care if it's a plant, I don't care if it's alcohol, I don't care if it's a street drug, if it's something from big pharma, it doesn't matter where it comes from. It doesn't matter what the name of the drug is. If you find that you're using in order to escape your life or avoid who you are, how you feel, or your life circumstances, that is a red flag that it's time to do some shadow work. I also want to talk about the second most common red flag I see is if you are always unhappy in your love partnerships. Now, we can definitely have a time in life where we need to make sure we raise that bar, and we need to always have high expectations that whoever the love partner is that we choose is giving back. We need reciprocity. We need balance. But when you're expecting someone to provide you with happiness and self-esteem and a sense of security, you've taken that a little too far. That's something you are supposed to provide your own self with, and you run the risk of getting trapped in those relationships becoming codependent and sick, and nobody doing the shadow work that needs to be done. So we need to be very careful when we look at love and shadow work. Okay. Now, I want to talk about number 3, psychological projection. Meaning that you have a tendency to, I think of Karens, look out at everyone else and be like, you're the problem, get the manager, you're the problem, you're not serving me, I'm entitled. Okay. If you're always blaming other people for what's wrong in your life because the world is wrong, that is a major red flag. You may be putting your stuff out onto others. Number 4, pay attention to triggers. Triggers are going to come sometimes from your numerology, from your life contract, from your astrology. Maybe the planets moved. Maybe you have some past life issues that were not ready to come to the surface, but now they are. There are many different reasons that a shift can occur in with your life contract. And if you have knowledge of these other key areas, astrology, numerology, you're tapping into your intuitive intelligence, you understand your Akashic record, you're going to be able to understand that it's time to do the shadow work, that it's scheduled. We could say it's even destiny charted. And you would also have a pretty good understanding about the help that's there for you as you go through it and when that cycle is supposed to end. Okay, so without this knowledge, it can get really tricky. You could feel like you just got slammed or, it snuck up on you. You don't understand. It's like the rug got, pulled out from under you. And it could very well be that it was destiny charted to happen. I also think it's really important. Okay, so I believe I'm on number 6. Number 5, number 6, Polly can edit that later, that you pay attention to the dreams that you're having. If you start to have very, very vivid dreams that feel a lot like prophecy, but they don't make any sense as something that would come up in the future, you may be dealing with some level of self-care, self-development, self-growth that involves shadow work. So in a way, these are subconscious dreams, but it really is very much like a war, like a battle. And they could look a lot like nightmares or excessively hard work. Your dream state could become disruptive, exhausting, and you may wake up feeling like all you did was work all the time. So pay attention to the way you're sleeping. Now, usually when this is happening, you're going through a phase in your life where there's shadow work that's ready to be dealt with. You'll have trouble just even dozing off. This may be a time where you start having a few glasses of wine before bed, or you go and you get those sleeping pills. You start to find that you can't relax because the thoughts that come into your head, the energy that comes to the surface as you're dozing off, when the veil gets lifted between the worlds, as you're dozing off and waking up, it is the truth. It never lies. That intense reality is something that could make you want to resist going to sleep at all, because then you're going to be in the shadow work. You're going to be forced to do it. So we resist sleep and we find that we can't relax. Okay. You may also be having flashbacks. So this could happen at any point. You're working, you're driving, you're going along in your day, you're having a lovely time, and all of a sudden you may have flashbacks, visions to something traumatic that happened, or you may be overwhelmed with feelings or emotions and you don't really know where they're coming from. Pay attention to these patterns. It may be time to do some shadow work. Okay, and number 7, last but not least, having a procrastinating attitude in life. A lot of people like to say, well, I'm just lazy. I don't think there's really any such thing. I think that laziness is coming from a place of fear. Humans are designed to work, okay? We all enjoy relaxing sometimes, but I think it's very easy to say, well, I'm just lazy, instead of saying, I have a lot of shadow work to do. I'm clearly afraid of my own prosperity, and I don't know what's going to happen once I start living truthfully. So procrastination and stagnancy. Okay, stagnancy in your circumstances. Has your life looked the same for many, many years in a row? Are things not changing and developing? Are you not facing any challenges or leveling up in any way? That's stagnancy. That could be due to a lack of shadow work. And I think that embarrassment is a huge part of it. Shame, embarrassment, not understanding where it's coming from. Sometimes that can come out as ego. So it could come out as though you're just really controlling and you have a really maybe high opinion of yourself, or you judge others or need to manipulate all situations. But that at the root could be embarrassment or shame, all indicators, all right, that we need to do some shadow work. And before I open this up to Christina, Danny, and Paul here, and you guys tuning in, I want to talk about the benefits. We haven't ever talked about that in this 3-part series. What are the benefits of doing shadow work? Well, we see higher immunity. We see increase in health and wellness, an increase in energy level. We see an increase in happiness. We see better communication between you and other people, an increase in positive relationships, but also healthy boundary setting, ceasing of self-destructive cycles, and more stable moods. Who doesn't need that? Okay. Life's hard enough without a bunch of shadow work making you moody and imbalanced. Okay. So that could also be an indicator. Okay. I want to open this up to you guys.
Well, I was thinking while you were talking that, it kind of starts, everybody has shadow work, so people shouldn't really be ashamed of it because everybody has it. It's in the birth chart too. And your 4th house, your 8th house, and your 12th house are all related to past life. And you're going to have, especially if you have planets in those houses, you're going to have shadow work in those areas. And if they are harshly aspected, you will also have that. Even if you don't have planets there, you look at the ruler of those houses and you would see what they were doing, and you can pretty much follow the path of where the shadow work is. And, some of it, like I said, some of it is, it comes from your family and then the habits that you developed. And this kind of starts in childhood when you talked about not wanting to face the dragon. Well, if you had a parent who sheltered you all the time, it'll be fine, it'll be great, you know what I mean? Didn't kind of be real with you. There's a certain amount that kids can handle, and it's a delicate line, but you have to know where you have to be real, and then not be like all rainbows and unicorns. So sometimes when they get older, the kids get older, they run from it because, they're not used to facing it. A lot of this comes from parents, not being afraid to face it too. And of course, everybody does the best they can with what they know, but it's just a bad habit. So now you're running from things instead of facing them. And I mean, not that I haven't been guilty, because I am 100% guilty of all of that. But it's important to recognize that, and living truthful. I did want to say this: when you live truthful, when you conquer that shadow work and you live from truth, that raises your vibration. Ivy and I often talk about, and I know Danny always says it too, there's always a high vibration and a low vibration. Well, when you're living from truth, you're raising your vibration. And that's what happens when you do shadow work. You release your lower frequencies, and then it makes room for the higher ones. And then you become lighter. You feel lighter, like you're almost walking on air. And it's like the light gets in, kind of like we talked about last week, I think, where we said, when you get broken, it allows the light to come in. And we have to I think everybody really has to learn more about the ego and observing yourself and not being so embarrassed about it, because we are human. And, this is some of it's our fault, yes, but it's kind of like inbred, and we have to conquer it. That's one of our jobs here. So if you're seeing the stagnancy, like you said, your life is not moving and you're stuck, but you don't really know how to do it. That doesn't mean you have to do the shadow work alone, but it just means that you have to recognize it. The first step is recognizing it and then observing it in yourself, and then figuring out a path of how to move forward, to do that shadow work and move forward.
Yes. I just want to say real quick, because I know you guys are going to jump in here too, but when you said that releasing it makes you lighter, what happens when we get lighter, folks? Well, then law of attraction actually can operate. Your manifestation can operate. Your prayers, what you've claimed for yourself in the universe, can actually come to you. Right? It's almost like tapping into that low level energy, or being stuck. Let's face it, being stuck and blocked with that low level energy is like a brick wall around you. And you can't have those blessings. A lot of times we hear teachings on manifestation and law of attraction and all of the tricks, and we don't understand why we're doing everything right according to the system, but we're not getting any payout. And it could be this. You've got to raise that vibration. You have to know that you're worthy. And when we have a dark lurking shadow, we often don't know that we're worthy. and it's heavy and it's low. And, you know, the universe responds to energy.
And it really is like, you know, it's like sucks the life out of you. So your energy is there and it's not where it should be. So once you do the shadow work and you lighten it, you know, you're all of a sudden you have more energy to put into other things, which is just so key, you know.
Absolutely.
And I love that you brought up the benefits of shadow work. It is really important that we discuss the how and like the reasons why we might avoid it, which I think all of us have experienced, but the benefits of it are so rich. And when thinking about and reflecting on the benefits, some of them are like enjoying our own company. One of the things I realized in doing shadow work is I enjoy my own company. I enjoy doing simple things by myself, you know, like writing in my journal or laughing at my own jokes or just watching something. Like I really genuinely enjoyed it. It's kind of like when you savor a good meal. That's how I started to feel when I started to do my shadow work. And also it allowed for me to figure out where my value comes from. So it's just like I believe we were having a conversation in a certain capacity about joy. And it's just like, where does your joy come from? Does your joy come from something external or does it come from something internal? And if it comes from something external, if that thing, whatever it is removed, where are you going to find your joy? And it kind of feels like the same way with value. Like, in what ways and in what areas do I value myself? And if it can start from me and God, then that's something that can be something that can't be taken away. And that's something that can be permanent. That's like a permanent place that I can continue to come to. It is also, with regard to relationships and doing shadow work, it kind of moves us from a place of scarcity to a place of abundance. Because, you know, when we think about and I remember myself before I really started doing the shadow work, like the bulk of it, like the real kind of like the engine turning on of starting the journey and thinking, you know, the what ifs, like what if this doesn't happen or what if that doesn't happen? Once I started the shadow work, it was just like, well, if you're not, you know, if you need to go and do something else, that's okay. But this is my plan. This is the plan that God and the ancestors gave to me. And I'm not trying to, make them angry. So I'm going to do what I have to do. And it just becomes like, you know, do what you have, like really encouraging whomever it is in whatever relationship. Like if you need something in a different space, in a different capacity, that's okay. And I support it. That ironically draws people to you. Even when you're not trying. And it's like, and you're just saying, you know what, God bless, you do what you have to for yourself because I'm going to do what I need to for myself. That is ironically, it draws people to you. And that was something that I wasn't anticipating. And still to this day, I'm wrapping my mind around it, but realizing that that's a phenomenon, you know. Also, realizing that it's the fear of the unknown. So it's like, we know that there is something like who we are, who we're going to be on the other side of shadow work is going to be amazing. We know it, we feel it, we see it, but we don't know. We don't know exactly what are we going to look like? How are we going to feel? How different will we be than the person that we see in the mirror right now? And that in and of itself can be scary. And even when it's something that could be wonderful, it's just, well, who is this going to be? Will I be able to handle this person? Will I be able to handle myself? Those are some of the feelings and the thoughts that come up that just have to be processed and worked through. And like discovering yourself, like really, it's almost kind of like this amazing experience of realizing who is this girl? Who is she? And what has been there the whole time?
And we're loud. You know, I think it's so important that we remember we're allowed to do that. Even if everyone around you wants you to stay exactly where you are, exactly who you are. You know, it is not human nature to want people in your tribe to change. We want everything to stay the same. That is human nature. But we have a job to do to grow. And it's okay to celebrate that growth. It's okay to even celebrate the fear and the adventure and the unknowing of it all. And I think we have to expect that people aren't going to like it. And that's not their job. That's fine. Yeah.
And it's interesting when other people have been on, who are on or who have been on some aspect of their shadow work journey, it's like they see it. They're just like, oh, okay, you're on it.
Yeah.
And they give you space. They know when to offer support and advice and when to just sit back and allow for things to happen. And when the bond is real and the relationships are real, you allow for those changes to happen because you know that the essence of the person will be who they are, but they're allowed to get to the next level of who they're meant to be. And one of the, I think, most powerful benefits of of shadow work is, so Ayanna Van Zant, she's does like a lot of healing work, and she has this book called In the Meantime. And I remember reading it, and she describes how it's like sometimes we're up and other times we're in the valley. And in the meantime, it kind of, when thinking about it, those are the moments. The meantime is when we have the chance to sit, reflect, when it's not the building period, it is the uncovering period, the preparation. And it kind of like makes me think of like strength training, like when you do weights, and you're not supposed to do weights on the same part of your body every day because you need time to rest. And part of that shadow work is the rest. It's working, but it's not actively, intentionally trying to move forward or level jump like you described. It is still, there's stillness in shadow work. And by doing the shadow work, it shows us how to manage the in-between moments. So in moments when I have to rest, I know how to productively use my time. I know how to rely on my support, my spiritual support that's there. And I know when to back off a little bit and just allow myself to be. So it's kind of like the practice of doing it gives you the tools to know how to engage in it the next time you have to do it, because shadow work is going to be a continuous, lifelong process. So once we have the tools and we're able to do it, it's empowering in that way. And you know that you can do it. And even when you know, okay, I'm not quite sure who this next version of myself will be, but I know that she'll meet me where I am, and she's going to love me. She'll love me as I am. So it's a powerful space.
That's right. I love that. And I always hear the same thing in my head from spirit anytime I'm trying to avoid it. And that is get comfortable being uncomfortable. This isn't a mad dash to the finish line. This is a process. So just go with the flow. We say go with the flow, and then people say, I don't want to hear that. It's too easy. It sounds like it's going to be enjoyable, but the flow is being able to breathe where you are, and you do get more comfortable in that discomfort if you're not going against the waves. And we'll get there. Paul, you wanted to say something too?
Yeah, I like that. When you were talking about the heaviness of shadow, it made me really think. Like, I never really put this together, even though it's right in the words there. But like, what is a shadow? It can only be caused by light, so it doesn't just exist on its own. So anybody who has, this really big shadow, has this journey to go towards the light. It's just like, the weight of it can be removed, and it's even more so, I think, like if you feel like the heavier it is, the bigger benefit there's going to be. That a candle isn't going to give you a big shadow, but like a big spotlight will. And, so the brighter that is, the more healing, the more benefit there is, and the lighter you will be. So it's like you have to just kind of look at everything as like the inverse. This can only be caused because there's something, good, something brighter, something bigger, and it's like obviously really hard to see because sometimes you don't even realize that you have to do it. You just say, oh, this is something I just realized this problem, but I don't have to do anything about it because I realized it. But since there's so much more, something far more beneficial, shining the light on it, it looks bigger. And for the past couple of weeks when we were talking about this, I was thinking about Plato's Allegory of the Cave, right? obviously it's really all about a shadow and what it is and how you're looking at forms of things. And so, it's like when you identify, you see, okay, here's this form of a cup, but it's not actually a cup. So it's like if you just saw that and said, okay, that's a cup, I'm healed. You're not. So then when he goes up the stairs and he sees people showing an actual cup to project, more projection, right? This image and this shadow of a cup, he that's when you realize and you say, okay, this is whatever I thought my problem was, something is behind it. Okay, but I can only see it because light is shining on it and elucidating this for me. And it's even in that word right there. But then, obviously getting up to continue this allegory here, getting up, you can the cats.
My cats. My black cat,
you can
ironically enough, came in
the shadow,
like
yeah.
a shadow
Nice
blasting
shadow.
through the door. Yes.
So once you get up and you do realize, if you're not familiar with the allegory, he gets to the top and he sees people shining, holding the images, seeing that he was just being shown and told different things his whole life. Then he can leave the cave. And this is like if you live your whole life in a cave, how is that first breath of fresh air going to feel? And how much is that light different than someone just blasting like this other light here? So, there's always a brighter light on a heavier shadow. And I think that it's just that, people need to realize that as well, that it's not just their shadow weighing them down. It's what is the benefit that is really shining the light to make it look so big, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And can I just play off of that and say that I talk about this endlessly, right? To my clients, to my students. I'm always trying to preach on the burdens that we come to earth with, the trials, the tribulations, the pain that we go through. It is all for the purpose of tapping into that high vibration, doing the healing work, and being able to go out there and help others. The more you have gone through, the more of a healer you are. The more you go through, the more purpose you have here on earth as a light worker. The more wisdom and power and leadership ability you have, but you can't just get it without doing the work. So we need to remember that the most broken of us are those with the most power underneath all of that like rubble in the cave, for sure. I love that analogy. I do want to invite you guys at this point to type, if you have not already done so, your prayer requests, your healing requests. We're going to take those now, and we're going to talk for another couple minutes here. Also, any questions or comments that you had on any of those, we're also going to take those now. This would also be the time to donate, if you have not already done so, to the Roots Revival Interfaith Church. We do appreciate your donations and support. Paul, did we have questions or comments here on this?
No.
Okay. Then I really wanted to play off a little bit on what Danny had said. Well, you get these prayers and healing requests in. So when Danny was talking about having an ease in relationships, unexpected perks. You do shadow work. You don't know that all these other things are going to happen necessarily. Why would you connect these things? But one of them most definitely is an ease in relationships. I love that you brought that up. And the way, specifically, one of the things you said was that people are drawn to you. You become like the shining light. Now, you didn't intend to do that, but you shine. And your light can reach others. And it's almost like you're a lighthouse. And it really does attract people to you in the same way I was talking about earlier, what Christina had said about tapping in to the high vibration and getting rid of that heaviness, right? Well, it allows manifestation, law of attraction to kick in. And so I think this is something that we don't think or talk enough about. And that is that when you do the shadow work, how many members of your soul tribe, how many people can come to you that have just been waiting to cross your path? It really does get very exciting. And I have found that those relationships are more and more meaningful, even the ones that are just short. It's just, you just bump into somebody and it's just a brief encounter of a little bit of work. Everything just has so much more value to it. And all of those sort of heavy, more toxic relationships that were struggles and battles, they just fall off. Everything gets better.
I wanted to touch on, you had mentioned something about people looking for their mate to be their end all be all, make them happy. And, I see this a lot. Like, people are like, oh, I just need to find somebody to make me happy. And, they'll find somebody that'll make them happy temporarily. And, and then things kind of come crashing down. And then, because that's not, you know what I mean? Like, that will only suffice for a little while. That feeds the ego, but it doesn't help you on the inside, because you have to start there. And when you are, whatever goes up must come down. So if you're like high on a person, they're great. And like most spiritual people, we know what goes up must come down. So we try to stay like level. We try not to get too high, because we know that, it's just spiritual law. So, but you're setting, if you are looking outside of yourself, you're setting yourself up for that, and then you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You're setting yourself up for, even, more shadow work later on. And it really had nothing to do with that person. It was really about you.
And I think it's a form of addiction, like we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. Like, you may do this with food. You may do this with lovers. You may do this with alcohol. You may do this with, a new social media account. I mean, if you find yourself like compulsively like binging on something, that's definitely a sign. And it seems like we have the science behind this. We talk about love partners and expecting so much out of them. We have the science behind it. This is all about their pheromones. We're just reacting to each other's smells, and after 3 months, they don't smell so good anymore. You start to, reality sets in and things like this. But it's like, we don't want to hear that. We don't want to know that. Why do we not want to know that? Because we are avoiding, for sure. And that's a nice way to do it. I think it's that pattern too. If we find that we're always attracting lower level relationships, they're probably trying to do the same thing. Okay. We got to vibe higher and you will just attract higher. A lot of people don't understand that the reason they haven't found their real life partner is because they haven't done the shadow work.
Right. And when you're with the right partner, they will support your spiritual work and you will support their spiritual work, and it'll just kind of flow. Right. But if one person is way off of the other one, that's when the imbalance kind of, is there, and that can be tough.
Right.
And this ties in with the numerology as well. In previous sermons, when we've spoken about the life path and the expression and the heart's desire number being central to who we are, and when we spoke about numbers having both light and shadow sides, a couple of the numbers 1 through 9 that where there has to be real concerted effort to make sure that the shadow sides of the numbers are not being kind of like relied on. And those are the numbers 2 and 6. So anyone with a life path or expression, life path being the path that we walk, the expression number being the soul, the person, who we are, and the heart's desire number being like at the core of who we are. Number 2 representing relationships, anything that's relational, valuing communication and togetherness. And the thing is, that's a beautiful thing. However, when there is shadow work to be done, and shadow work is an individual thing, and if there is this kind of avoidance where, well, the other person, can the other person handle if I do this? Will the other person feel uncomfortable if I step into my greatness? What will happen to the other person? And that's, though probably well-meaning, is a cop-out for ourselves, because our responsibility is to ourselves. And by loving ourselves, that's loving God. And because God made us perfect in her image. And so being careful not to allow for the shadow side of number 2 in those capacities to allow us to escape in that way, like we were describing this escapism. Also, the number 6. The number 6 is similar to number 2, whereas where number 2 is more kind of like the one relationship, whereas the number 6 is relationship, but then also community and family and caretaking. So knowing people personally whose life path number is 6, they have to be very careful, and they've learned as they've grown to become aware not to allow the needs and the concerns of the folks who they care about and who they love to overtake them. I have a friend whose expression number is 6, and the number 6 for the expression number is the spiritual parent. It's like it's the cosmic parent, the cosmic mother, the cosmic father. So always having the sense of responsibility for others. Mm-hmm. And Ivy, I love when you talk about life contract, when you speak specifically like to the path that parents take, and how when a person becomes a parent, that doesn't mean that the rest of their lives are now null and void. Like, parenthood does not eclipse everything else that a person was brought to earth to do. And that is something where a person with the heart's desire expression or life path number 6, that's just something to be cognizant of. So it's just always an opportunity to be aware of the energy that walks with us, that is always with us, to make sure that we don't miss out on some really incredible healing work that we are allowed to do.
I think it's so important to understand your astrology. Like, Christina was saying earlier, 4th house, 8th house, 12th house, you should know that shadow work comes up with those in particular. And like, for my own self doing psychic mediumship work, I look at past life influences. And when one of those resurrects and it's time to deal with that shadow, what was unfinished business, it's time, and it will take over. It will take over your whole life and your whole personality while it's there. And I think we need to just start, accepting these things more. Stop treating it like it's a fantasy or it's entertainment, or it's like a little, it's some kind of a fairy tale or a fictitious, like, this isn't magic, this is real. This is a science of its own. There's nothing magical to it. And when the opportunity is there, we should really be prepared, understanding, again, I said this earlier, how long it will be there, and what areas of your life it's shining that light on, so we could be far, far more prepared to go through this than what we are, but we choose to just pretend like it's some kind of, fictitious character story in the background that's, optional if we want to entertain it, or it's become a word of fashion. Shadow work has become something of fashion, and this is serious, and we do have to face the fact that we did come to earth, not just to have a big party and feel great. And that's why a lot of people feel dissatisfied with their lives. That's not happening for them, and that's because the earth is a classroom. It's an opportunity to grow and learn. And if we're not doing that part, we're wasting our time, and we will become increasingly more uncomfortable, and we will see ourselves as a people deteriorate, the environment deteriorate, as we are, for sure. So it is time. I just wanted to say thank you to Empathic Alex for donating. And was there anyone else who donated? Just saying thank you to Alex. And Christina, did you have something to say before? And then
I think it's important to note too, if we keep ignoring it,
okay,
it will at some point catch up and bring us to our knees. And I think that's why, it'll bring a person to the point of being so low that they hit rock bottom, and then they have to start working their way up. So it's a lot easier to do the shadow work willingly and face it and be courageous, because it does take a lot of courage to do shadow work. But if you keep running from it, if you are that person that runs, don't think that it's not going to get you, because it will. And when it does, it'll just be 100 times harder than it could have been. Mm-hmm. So it's important to really recognize that you do have some control about, how it will play out.
Oh yeah. Amen. or we just reincarnate. We just keep going over and over and around that mountain. I think everything is easiest to deal with as it comes like a wave. Deal with it. We have to learn to surf, those waves. Okay, do we have our prayer and healing requests in here organized? And Jesus, baby Jesus, our cat, is here to help with the healing like always. Okay, so Paul, are you leading this then?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Okay. He used me as stairs, so I'm recovering from that. Prayers from my hand that the cat got. Okay. So we'll start with Alex, who's looking for prayers and healing for her grandmother who is going into surgery on Tuesday, the removal of breast cancer. So prayers and healing to her grandmother. Hope that it all goes well. Let's claim that for Alex's grandmother, family, and the surgeons, doctors, everyone, staff. Claim that healing and skill.
Amen.
One from Denise. Is praying for a positive outcome from a doctor visit on Wednesday for bladder issues, as well as the family dog Emily to get answers for her nosebleeds. So let's lift these up for Denise, bladder issues, and her dog's nosebleeds. Let's claim prayers, healing, great outcomes for Denise.
Amen.
It's from Shauna, who's looking for prayers to help keep her moving forward in her self-healing and to stop moving backwards. Let's claim this for Shauna to keep moving forward with her healing.
Amen.
And we have one from Butterfly Spirit, who's healing and prayer request for forgiving of family members that have done bad wrongs towards her and her kids. So let's lift this up for Butterfly Spirit to get that forgiveness in her heart and move forward.
Yes.
Claim that.
I just want to add, anyone who is feeling double-minded, has a tendency to take one step forward, two steps back. For those struggling to make a decision and keep it set to do better in their lives, I pray that this week they be given that extra boost of strength and assurance and a willingness to try a better way, a healthier way, instead of battling themselves. Self-defeatist behaviors, want the chains broken on people suffering from that.
Also prayers for anyone who, whether it be recent or someone who lost someone a while ago, if there's anyone who has been really wanting to feel or hear from an ancestor, someone who has crossed over, I pray that they relax and that they breathe and that they simply make the invitation for that person to come and to accept their visit, accept their message in any way that it comes, and offer them healing in that way, especially for folks who have lost loved ones during this pandemic, who are unable to visit or see them or hold them in the hospital as they transitioned. Prayers for their healing.
I also want to pray healing over anyone dealing with kidney stones of any kind. I want to pray healing over bladder infections and liver problems, as well as lower back issues or any kind of back pain, chronic back pain, and heart problems, whether this be like high blood pressure, clogged arteries, heart disease. Okay. Thank you, Spirit, for being with us. Please send all those that are lost to find this video, and we continue to send healing for those of you who post your prayer requests afterward as well. Amen. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us today. We will see you next Sunday for Sunday service, 8 p.m. Eastern here on TikTok as well as on YouTube. This recording will be published. Sometimes it takes YouTube like 24 hours or so, but here on Ask Ivy, it will be rendering soon, and anywhere that you can get a podcast for the next 2 weeks. We will be discussing, our sermon topic is on being woke. What does it mean to be woke? What experiences might you be having with this? And the part 2 of that is being woke alone. What happens sometimes when you wake up to the Holy Spirit and you wake up to your own growth and healing and working with the universe? Your life becomes purposeful. It can often be very lonely, and that can throw a lot of people off their game. So we also want to touch on that in week 2. All right. Thank you so much, Reverend Danny, Reverend Christina, Reverend Paul, Spirit, and baby Jesus over there.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. This is wonderful.